Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Jim, but on YouTube I am underscore Jim. Welcome, guys. Welcome to this live. How are you doing today? Yes. Um, I'm from Kenya, East Africa. Yes, that's my location. How are you doing today, guys? Hey, how are you? Unifila, hey, hi. Thank you so much for coming. How are you doing? It's been a long time. It's been a long time from South Africa, I guess. Yeah, we once interacted. How have you been? Thank you so much for the like. Thank you for liking. Thank you so much. Unifila from South Africa. How have you been? Yes, it's such a long time. I remember there's a time yeah, you joined me and we interacted, and it was amazing. Yeah, Unifila says I'm good, and you, Jim. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good too. We still pushing. We're still pushing to. Yes, just make sure everything aligns. Yes. How is South Africa? Currently, like in Kenya, the region I am, we experience lots of rain. Is it the same over there? Is it the same with you? You were so much so Oh, it's very cold here. Oh, yes. Yeah, but also your country experiences snow. It snows. Yeah, that must be very cold. Right here, in Kenya, it is raining. So this is one of the times that is very cold in all the seasons. When you say cold, I know. Hey, when the rains is this cold, what about now? What about if it's snowing? Yeah, that must be extreme. The summer was the summer yes, Oh, hey, what about today? Not even right now, it's raining here. I don't know if I can show. Yeah, it's raining. It's raining. I can actually show you. It's raining outside. The log so. Oh, that sounds. That sounds. Yeah, it's rain actually. You can. It's raining. Can actually show you. It's raining. It's raining outside. Yes, it's raining. It was heavily, but it's now reducing to. See? Yeah, and it rains every day. Right now, it's that season of too much rain. So, nowadays, you see, it's a season whereby it rains every day, like every day. No ego. Yeah, how are you? How are you, my friend? A long time. It's been a while. Good to see you. Yeah, let it rain. Yeah, rains are blessings. Yeah, currently, it's season of rain, and like it rains every day. Yeah, that is. Unifila says, oh, I can see it's raining. Yeah, it's raining. No, Ego says, I'm good, bro. Yeah, that's good. Good to know. Yeah, it's been a while. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for the likes. Really appreciate. No, you go. Oh, where are you again? Yeah, I'm just. Yeah, from Kenya, and currently I'm in my residence. That is, I'm actually home. Yeah, but in Kenya. I Kenya. So I can see you still know some Swahili. Yeah, Swahili words. Sawa means okay. Mm? Uh, now Ego says I should be doing better with it. All this time, I still talk with Kenyans every single day. Oh, that's good. Yes. Hi. Pole pole. Slowly, slowly. You'll be fluent very soon. Practice makes perfect. Very soon, if you still practicing, it's going to be good. Uh, yes, pole pole. Slowly, slowly. You'll get it, and you'll claim proficiency in Swahili language. Yeah. Yes. I want to teach you one more word today. Vizuri. Do you know the meaning of vizuri? Vizuri. Let me know if you know the meaning of vizuri. Igor, do you know the meaning of vizuri? Vizuri. Yes, kakangu. That's nice. Then very soon you'll claim the proficiency in this language. Yeah, that is it. You know what? Really, there are some things that just affect you. You'll find out that there are things I don't know how to put it. Is it the articles or what? Not what we call it in English, but there's some you just like. I'll go deep. Vishirikishi, viunganishi. Oh, okay. Sometimes it really like the word mzuri you can find it in different versions. You'll find kuna mzuri, you'll find vizuri. So like vizuri means very very good, very good. And then you'll find like mzuri, it's good. Huh? So if you put there some words, you are going to slightly depending on what you want uh, to talk about. Yes. So that's nice. Mzuri means good. And then you can also find nzuri. So if you put n, then like you see the main word like so in Swahili zuri, that is the kitenzi is it's called kitenzi or the noun. Is it that? Yeah, noun in English. So you can build up with the various words depending on what you want to talk about. You'll find like if now you put nzuri, nzuri it means good, but it will depend with what you're talking about. Hope you get me. Yes, there are various words. We have commonly used words. That's one of them. Again, we have commonly used words like sawa, the one you've mentioned. We also have another word, very common words. For example, Do you know the meaning of napenda? So it will end up varying with the depending on what you want to talk about. You'll find uh, if you say I love, you say napenda. Napenda kitu fulani. Napenda kitu hiki. For example, you can say um, napenda kitabu changu. Napenda kitabu changu. So if you say that means I love my book. Napenda kitabu changu. And of course, I love this book. Yeah, this is one of the Kenyan writers, but it's in Swahili at the end of the day. You see, it says Kidagaa Kimemwozea. It's a very interesting book. It was once in the system during then in the year what? It was in the year 2011 to 2016 around there. Yeah, napenda. Hey. Hey, that's good. Huh? So if you find you if you'll start reading if you want to read some Swahili, my friend Igo, if you find this book and then but this writer is one of the writers in the country that claim proficiency in Swahili language, but so sad that he's gone. He's gone. He passed on during that time of Corona. That season of Corona in 2020. That season, unfortunately, he passed on. He was hit by a vehicle, and they just found him dead, like lying on the road of there. So during that time of Corona, that's when he passed on, and it was very sad that we never go to celebrate him because you know that that time there were restrictions. There were restrictions even going to the funeral. It was restricted, and it was not a very good season during that time. So he was, in fact, people ended up like relating with one of his writings. He he's wrote so many books, but there's one of the novels he wrote that's in Swahili. It means this one in Swahili we call it riwaya. So one of the riwayas he wrote actually came out the way his burial was. It was reflecting what he wrote in the book, because he in that book he was talking about his father, not exactly his father. Before knowing that person was his father, because he in the book he narrates, he says he grew up in the neighboring country, that is Mwanza. That's Tanzania, which is our neighboring country. And of course, it's one of the country that has good Swahili speakers. So this Ken Walibora, and in the book he refers to himself as sorry, somebody keeps calling. In that book he refers to him as to himself as Mswahili. Yeah. Is it I'm missing the name. Oh my god. Somebody keeps calling. So now Ego says Polly to hear that. Yeah, it was very sad. Yoni says anyway, rain it's a blessing. Yeah, it's a blessing. So this someone keeps calling and it's interfering with it's interfering over here. So this can, in fact, if I tell you, this is a guy that helped me when I was in school by then to know a lot of, to perfect my Swahili language. Oh. And so let's back to the story of Ken Walibora. So this guy in his book, he narrates how there was this when he growing up as a young child in our neighboring country, that is Tanzania. He narrates in that book, which is Siku Njema. And by the way, Siku Njema means a good day. So in that book, the book is named Siku Njema. I have it somewhere, It's a very good book. Reading on that book, I actually happened to perfect my Swahili language. Very nice, deep, like to get to know better, like deep. You know, there are some words, vocabularies that you get to know. You hear them and like you get to know. If you read more, you get to know them very well. So in that book, the book of Siku Njema really helped me, on which he narrates about his life. It's actually entirely based on his life, because he narrates him being young in a neighboring country in Tanzania, and her mother was a very good singer of Taarab music. So in the book, he narrates her growing up with her mother in, of course, which is Tanzania, the neighboring country, and her mother being, didn't I write? Yeah, Siku Njema, but it is Njema. You are almost there. It is Siku, it is right. That's the correct spelling. And then Njema, it is Njema, which means a good day. Siku Njema means a good day. So he narrates in the book, growing up there, her mother was a musician, a very well-known musician, who sang the most popular songs from the coastal region or Swahili speakers, the Taarab music. The Taarab music is one of the best music sung in Swahili, and it has this kind of it's kind of how do I put it? Like, it's a music that can talk about somebody in a very sarcastic way. Yeah, it has a lot of I would say sarcasm. Yes, you kind of, in Swahili they say kuchamba. Yeah, they talk about someone. It could be in a good way, or it could be in their bad behaviors that people don't like. So this music, mostly the singers would like to express that out. So the mother was one of the singers, as he narrates in the book. And this guy growing up, at some point, her mother being popular, dies so poor because of the disease that she ailed, and she ended up not having a very good send off, because yeah, Njema, that's the correct spelling. Siku Njema, that's the correct spelling. My friend, no ego. You got it now. So this singer, having her mother being a musician of Taarab music, her life comes to an end, and she's buried. And from that narration in the book, she's buried, and she's all over the newspaper. In fact, the newspapers from the country, that's Kenya. Uh, One of the popular by then. She's captured in the ad in that newspaper in a certain article that talks about the popular people, or the popular people such as musician. It's captured there. So after this writer burying her mother, he ends up staying with his uncle, but he's not treated so well. He's not treated well. He he faces a lot of rejection in the family. And Makio, he was this student who was very bright, in school, and his cousins end up not liking him. The cousins end up not liking him. They end up mistreating him. In that setup, when you are in a certain home, and when you are there, and because there is no any other thing for you being a child, and you just have to stay with them, whether it's good or bad. Yes. So is the wife to the uncle, and his cousins really mistreat him in this case when he stays in their home. And because he only had her mother, who was there for him all through, and he was the only child of her mother. So he had no option but to stay with the uncle. The uncle was good to him, but sometimes in this life, when you are when you have a family, you will not always be there, because the uncle, sometimes you could leave. He was a carpenter. So most of the time he could leave, going to work in his workshop. And so the cousins could be given an opportunity to go in their books, like go there, read, while this guy, the writer, Ken Walibora, or as he referred to him as in the book, he's referred to as Mswahili. Calls himself Mswahili. Mswahili means this person that is very conversant with the language, or Swahili language. So, and perfectly, I can say he was in this. He was very perfect in the language, and that's why he has written so many books. He has written so many books. So while staying in their home, while staying in the home of his uncle was very hardworking. He could go in his workshop, going over his work, while in the home, while this guy comes back home, all the tasks, all the house chores were meant for him. He will do all the house chores. He will name them, everything that's to be done in the home, and his cousins will not help at all. So he ended up having a very bad life. Like, his life was not so good. But through this thick and thin, he strived on. He was going to school in problems. Because her mother had passed, and he ended up being in the custody of his uncle. So this guy, while growing up and going on with things like this, going to school, and in school he was very bright, he was brilliant. He beat his cousins who are very older than him. He ended up being the best, and they started school earlier than him. He ended up even passing like going forward while they would fail and repeat some classes. So he was very bright. They were his cousins were older than him. He ended up, going past the classes that were ahead of him, where the cousins were ahead of him, but he ended up doing so well that he surpassed them. So the cousins, through his hard work, being bright in school, didn't like him. So one day, this guy, while growing up in this difficult situation, now her mother has passed, but he had his faith in one of his uncles. And in the narration of that story, he says he grew up in her grandmother's place, or the grandparents' place, of which it was a large family. It was a large family. His grandfather had 13 wives, had 12 wives, and around 37 kids. you know, Being African, during by those days, they claimed you're having a big family. It was a kind of, you are very good. You are a very big man in the society. So his grandfather had like so many wives and so many children that at the end, her mother who now passed on, she had to leave the home because after their grandfather passed on. That's when the war arose in this big family. Big families most of the time they have wrangles. They have wrangles, and that's why it's good to maintain to have this small family does well, and it's not associated with wars when now, let's say, when the owner, who was the grandfather, passed on, this family was in wrangles, was in trouble, was in war, kind of war. So their mother ended up going back to their grandparents' home, who bore the mother, who bores the mother now. That's where he was now being brought up, and now along the mother had three siblings that he left with, going back to their grandparents' home. Did you start a family as yet? Not yet. No, Ego. I've not yet started a family. Not yet. But I have a son and a daughter. Could that be starting? But I'm not staying with them because they stay with their mother, and we could not like. Unfortunately, should I say for you? I got them when I was in school, when I was in university, and we've never stayed with the mother until today. So I have a son and a daughter. So this writer goes ahead to tell us who are the conditions in his grandparents' home, who bores the mother, that is. And there, because their grandmother left with her mother with the other siblings. So other siblings, when things got worse over there, they went their way trying to find their life. No, Ego is making me laugh. That's good, Kaka. You did better than me. Hey, so back to the story. Back to the story. So this writer, So back to the story. So the this this writer actually goes ahead because things are difficult in his uncle's family. Oh, but it was not so late. 27th was better. That's the right time, Ego. 27th was good. Uh, you see, I'm now 30. I'm now 30. 27. That was a good one. And do you know my firstborn? I got him when I was 22. 22. I got him when I was 20. The firstborn. Mm. You can imagine. It's now 8. So the writer is forced to look for his uncle in a different town, Mombasa. So from the story, while he was with his mother, while the mother was sick, he could ask about his father, but he was not given an opportunity to meet his father early while his father was alive. But surprisingly, when the mother was passing at this last minute, you see, he sent someone to call him from school. In fact, he was in the library reading books. And as being a writer, he tells us reading books, and I guess he was reading books. So someone is sent to call him from the library where he was. On arriving at home, he finds people at home, and the mother was struggling with the last breath, But he ends up mentioning something like, if you ever want to meet your father, ask somebody. In a very that's in a very unclear way. It was not so clear, but at least he gets to hear something. And all along, this thing goes on disturbing this guy. It's disturbing him. When the mother passes? But my mother mentioned something about Kitale. And do you know Kitale is now in Kenya? It's some kilometers. It's like 200 kilometers from the place I am now. From the place I am now, it's some 200 kilometers to the place. So, yeah, Robert, thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much. From Jamaica, I see you. We have also Robert. Is he the same guy, or we have two Roberts? These are the name I can't pronounce. Yeah. Oh, Kenya. Yes. So, thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for the likes. So, the place the writer is told is just it's very close to me now. It's the next town from this town I am in right now. Yeah. Yeah, Kitale. Hey, no ego. You must visit this country. It seems there's a lot you know about this country. Just come and see what's going on. So the mother, in his last minutes, he mentions something about Kitale, and then she mentions about a friend who was very close to her. So she tells the writer, please, if you ever want to know where your father is, ask someone. He will lead you. He will give you the direction to the place of your father. So in this season, when the mother is not there, the writer is really suffering in the home of his uncle. Yeah, it is very ego. It's very close to Kitale, to the border or the way to Uganda. So when you pass this place, you'll surely pass the border that's known as Swam. It's Swam over there, then you are in Uganda. Yeah, you are very right. You're very right. So the writer is left with a lot of questions. Why did the mother mention about Kitale? And you know, him being a being a writer in being a writer of Swahili novels, which is no which the correct word which is riwaya. He's troubled. He's troubled to figure out the last words her mother said, and why did he even talk about the friend? So he tries over there, like, I need to ask the friend to my mother about this. And while being in the home suffering, he has now trying to find a place where he has to go. Should I find my father? Should I just change the place, go to my uncle? Or what should I do? So while in the home of his hunger and suffering, lots of questions arose in his mind. Wondering, like, he had this urge, I want to change the place of staying because where I am, I'm suffering, and my uncle can't know this because he's a hardworking man. He leaves the house very early in the morning and he comes late in the evenings. So it is very difficult for him to know what I'm going through. And if I tell him, maybe he might end up questioning, and my aunt or the wife will not be happy, and maybe the torture will be so much. So the writer ends up not saying anything. He just tries to find his own ways that he will be able to get to his uncle who is in Mombasa. And mark you, the place he's in is in Tanzania. So he decides to go look for his uncle who is in Mombasa. And you know, the uncle is not very well off. He's this guy, because over the time, the communication, writing the letters, during those times, writing the letters, they had communicated, and he had said whatever he's doing in Mombasa. Mombasa being a very big port that connects Uganda and Kenya. That's in terms of ferrying cargo, because Uganda is a landlocked. I just wonder how this story is connecting between these countries, because talking about Kitale, my friend Igor knows about this place, knows about Kitale, and here he tells us Kitale it's very close to the border, heading to Uganda. And now we are back to the coastal region where the same place, Uganda being a landlocked country, uses our port to ferry their cargo into their country. Most of their cargo passes through this port in Mombasa. So the writer, just a minute, let me do something here. Oh, someone's calling. So the writer chooses to travel all the way in a place known as Tanga, that is in Tanzania, to go find the whereabouts of his uncle in Mombasa, who carries luggages. Actually, he just carries luggages for people and for survival, for his survival. So the writer decides to start the journey to Mombasa, Kenya, from Tanga, Tanzania, to go find his uncle. And mark you, in those days, the major way to communicate, or the best way to communicate, was through letters. And if they were telephones, they were only for those for the rich, I would say. So the writer sets off his journey, coming to Kenya, Mombasa, to find his uncle. And in all this, is just trying to go with the information, because I've been communicating through the letter. He's heading to Mombasa through the information he has in the letters that have been communicating to his uncle over time, telling him about the place he is and where he lives. Yes, so he tries to go through this information. Using this information, he travels, he arrives. In fact, traveling was very, 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 very difficult for him, because being a young boy, and he was doing very well in school. He was being awarded in school some things, some presents. So he manages through that, sells some things, some stuffs there, and finds some money to help him get to Mombasa, Kenya, from Tanganyika, from Tanga, Kenya. So he sets off his journey. He arrives in Mombasa in difficulties. He tries to ask people about the places that his uncle had mentioned to him in the letter, and somehow he finds a way, but not immediately. So he goes to the place. Unfortunately, his uncle left the place. He left the place. He's no longer at the same place. So he's forced to stay with a stranger. He stays with a stranger for that night that he arrived. And the stranger is so nice to him, like treats him so well, and that's it. So in the process, this guy looking for his uncle, the first lady that he met and tried to give him accommodations, tells him more about his uncle. Uncle left the place. He's in another place, and they have no whereabouts of him. And because the place he had, in fact, the place that he went to, it was kind of his place. It was his place, like his own home, and unfortunately he has left the place. He's not welcome to. It was a place. It was a home of his uncle. His uncle who was doing his things, who was like kind of carrying things, the gargles in the pot. Somehow he managed, through working, he had bought that place and he was owning it through his the help of the wife too, and they were staying in that place. So he's told the uncle is no longer there. He went to a certain place. Then the place later this guy comes to realize the place that he was welcomed, it was a place of his uncle. But things happened in between there. and unfortunately the uncle passed, and they have never known this. So, but his uncle had also kids, had kids. So through his struggles of finding the uncle, he finds out that the uncle is no more, and he passed on. But his home is still there. So they, while asking, they tell him the place. He gets to know the place that he first arrived and he was accommodated. It was the place of, it was a property for his uncle. So he goes back there to find out, because he's told he left behind a wife and children. So he goes back to that place, and they are meeting this guy, this lady who treated her so well and like welcomed her. Yeah, he tries to ask more about it, and the lady tells her this place belongs to this person. The lady not knowing, like maybe not knowing that the person was the uncle to this writer. So the writer returns to that place, and he tries to find out the brothers, his cousins, the sibling, the children to his uncle. He asks whereabouts of them, and he finds like no. It's a very sad story because things have happened, and like his only cousin who was to help him, he's kind of not so well. Not so well, because life has really brought things in his way that have turned to be something else. So the writer decides to find his cousin. He asks the story until he locates the cousin, but the cousin, being in the streets, what over this life has really given him something else, and he's no longer he's no longer a human, a straight human, because he's stealing, he's smoking bang, he's into drugs. But the writer decides to find him so that he can get to know more about his uncle. On finding, he traces his cousin, he asks until he gets to find where the cousin resides. He even stays on the streets, and is no longer interested in the property the father left behind. So he gives them a short story about what happened. It's said that the uncle indeed faced out, he got sick and suddenly succumbed to the illness. And their mother, they were well to do. They had really tried and they were doing very well. They had bought properties. In the process, the mother just left their home, and there was nobody to take over or to take care of the property, and so the strangers were the one taking care of the properties. And his cousin, being the person who was to take care of the properties, he was no longer, because he was into drugs and drinking, and he was just doing bad. It was bad for him. So in this story, the writer, running from problem, that is his uncle's place, his other uncle's place. It's like jumping from the frying pan into the fire. His journey to Mombasa yields no fruits because he finds even more devastating stories that his uncle is no more. The people that were to be there for him, they are like no, they are nowhere to be found. So while in Mombasa and while in his other uncle's place in Tanga, he tried to ask the whereabouts of his father to the friend from the friend to her mother, and the friend had told her his father is in Kitale, Kenya. So on reaching to Mombasa, the writer changes his mind and says, I have to look for my father in Kitale because yes, I was doing by then, but nowadays that spirit is not with me. Yes, that spirit is not with me. I don't know. The struggles of life have really taken me this and there, and I no longer have. I would say I'm failing to read more books, but I used to. I used to read books by then. Yes. So the writer decides to find his father, and from previously the friend to her mother had told her about the yes, it's I would like to. Yeah, thank you for that prayer. I would like to. So the writer decides to find his father, and from the stories as he had been told by the friend to her mother, the father is in Kitale. So it's another thing. He tries to find the money to help him get to Kitale from his cousin who is drunkard, but he tries. So he decides to get into jobs like carrying people's luggages over and there for a while so that he can find some money to take him to Kitale to find his father. But in the process, while still in the process, his cousin who's showing around where he can actually find his jobs, he's into so many things, stealing things. Unfortunately, while he was there trying to raise his money, the cousin he's involved in theft, and in the process, mob justice is done to him and he dies. So the writer is left alone over there, but he manages to raise money to get to Kitale. So that he travels to Kitale. On arriving to Kitale, the mother had told him about this place. I had told him about the name of his father. Then he tries to asking when he arrives in Kitale about this person, Juma Mukosi. Juma Mukosi, and by then in his book he writes the name Amjong Isakom from the end to the beginning. So the writer asks this arriving, he asks about the place, and he's directed to this place. Some say, in fact, at the beginning asking, some say they have heard of the place, but some they're like, no, we do not know about these persons. But likely one day he finds someone that knows the place, and he's taken there. And arriving there, it's a very sad. It's a sad state. It's in us in, like the place looks like no one stays there. It is abandoned. It's a yes. It's a big house. There's a big house, but the place looks abandoned. And from the story given to him by the friend of a mother, they say there's a rich man over there. Yes, looking at the house, it's a big house. It's a big farm. Now the writer is left in shock and worries because the place he was being told it looks abandoned. It looks abandoned. No one lives there. So he sought some help to stay with the strangers over there. And in the process, he decides to find a job in a certain farm so that he works there to raise money to take him back to Mombasa, because right now the place he was coming for, or the person he was coming to look for, the place that has been taken, it looks abandoned. No one stays there. It's just lonely. It's a lonely place. From the look of things, no one stays there because trees have grown. The house is with a lot of cobwebs and so on. Name all these things whereby you find a place abandoned and no one staying. That means other things will take over. Let's say the birds will begin to build, the cobwebs, the spiders will begin to own the place. So that's what was happening to this place that the writer had been taken to. So the writer decides to find a place so that he is employed as a shamba boy. Shamba boy, those people that take care of the farm. Yeah, so that he raises money to take him back to Mombasa because his mission of looking for his uncle has totally failed. So he's lucky and finds a place of a rich woman. This rich woman welcomes the writer, employs him, and he's working in his farm. In her farm, that is, because the lady and the husband were very rich. Well, these rich people were taking care of the other families even so. So he decided to take that opportunity that he works for them to raise money to take him back to Mombasa. And do you know what? This rich woman is the one who collected this writer when he arrived in Kitale for the first time in a hotel. He went somewhere trying to find something to eat, and that's where he found this rich lady who was driving a very they're called pickups, yeah, pickups, those trucks, for maybe carrying goods. And this lady, for her being in the farm, doing farm activities, looking after cattle, and also ferrying milk to the dairy, she needed this vehicle. She needed the truck, So luckily, because they had met before, it was very easy for the writer to find a job in the home. So the writer starts staying with them, and even this lady takes care of the writer like her own child, because that's what she was doing in the community. That's what she was doing in the community. She was taking of the vulnerable or the orphans. And so he takes the writer as his own child. And, you know, they are working a little bit and doing other things. But at the end of the day, the writer has to make something, money, to take him back to Mombasa, where his uncle resided. So, in the process, this guy kept on talking about this father, Isakom Amjong, whereby the name of his father was being written from the end to the beginning. So it reads Juma Mukosi, but the writer, because his father was also very famous, he had his name, or the to be known, or to be being as an artist, or being an artist, or being a writer. You always want a name to be identified with. So his father didn't want to complicate things so much. So he just used his own name, but he wrote his name from the beginning to the end. Let me show you how it was. So the name of the writer is, because his father was also very famous. So this was the name. Juma Mukosi was the name of his father, and because he was also a very popular person, he was involved in certain things. He was a teacher, and he was involved in so many things that made him popular. And being a teacher, and being this famous, and doing some things in the society, he decided to write his name from the beginning CIS Isakom. Okay. So you can see this is the name. So here is the name of his father, but he decided to write this name from the beginning, like from here to this. So he was known as Isakom Amjum. So that was his name as by then, depending on what he was doing. So the writer ends up finding, asking about of his whereabouts, until he finds out. But it's very sad because this guy, I think his father, life had really been tough on him. The situation was not so good. Mark you, the home that the writer was told it belonged to his father or the person that he was looking for was actually where his father was staying. But he had things. He was like depressed. He had things in his head. He was depressed, and almost the villagers around or in the neighborhoods, they knew him as a madman. So no one no one no one associated with his father in the village. And that's why even the home being as much as being looking like rich, a home of a rich person, it was looking abandoned. But do you know what? The father was still living in that environment as much as it was looking. The father was still staying there. So for a long time, after the writer inquires and finds out that this person, Juma Mkosi, still lives in that place, and him being cautioned or warned not to visit that home because this person was mad, was a mad person, he decides to say, like, one day I have to visit this home and find out what goes on. I have to enter this home and just know what is going on. So one day, while in the village walking, he meets a certain person. He meets this person, not knowing the person that he's meeting is his father. And because the father was depressed and kind of in these things, he decides to give him a story that he's looking for a certain person. And this person was a teacher and a writer, and he did so many things for the country. So the same person that he's asking is the person that he's looking for. How this guy somehow, his story was very interesting. Because at some point, if you are looking for a person, and then you end up asking the same person and not knowing this is the same person that you are looking for, is the guy. And because this guy was somehow mentally challenged, yes, he knew very well. He recognized that if this boy is looking for this person, I'm the one. But he didn't disclose that I'm the person. Instead, his father decides to invite him. He gives him an invitation to his home. He gives him an invitation. He gives the writer an invitation to his home on a certain day. And the writer ends up saying, no, on this week I'll not be around because I've actually been given an opportunity to present an item in a school, in a neighboring school, so I will not be available on this day. So the father say, the guy, who is the father, says, oh, you have an event to take on this day? Yes. A presentation? Yes. Oh, so it seems you are very good. You are very good in poems and this and that. Yes. They talk, they have a conversation, and the writer in his mind not even knowing that the person that he is talking to or telling all these things, he's his own father. And because the villagers know this guy has mentally challenged, is not very well in his mind, They always avoid him, but the writer ends up blending very well, ends up associating so nice with this stranger who is his father. And by a coincidence, he ends up asking him about this guy. And the father gives him an invitation. The writer, not knowing it is his own father giving him an invitation, or is the same guy, the person that he's looking for, giving him an invitation to go to his home. So the writer agrees with him that maybe it will be on a different date that he will visit him. And in the process, the man he meets says he would like to, because he also loves point presentation, and he's also a writer and kind of things, and a teacher too. He would like to be present the day the writer will be presenting his poems in the school during that day. So the writer, not being mean and this, he decides to tell him, okay, it will be good if you will join me too on that day, because it will be nice for you to be there too, so that you get to know how well how good I'm talented in this field. So they agree on that day, and when the day came, the writer, who is Ken Walibora, goes to present his item in the school during that day. And this man that he met on the road, asking him of whereabouts of his father, also joins him. He joins him so that he can see his presentation. And because the stories had gone in the village, this guy was not well off in his mind, or he had something disturbing in his mind. People knew very well maybe he could be dangerous, or he's not a person to associate with. So the writer Ken Walibora, who is so the writer on that day prepares himself to go to the school to do a presentation. And because he was so well that he was even being called to some radios to present, and the school was privileged to have him present his item. So he went in the school during that day that he had been invited, and the guy he met, who happens to be his father too, had said he was going to join him. So on that day, he was in school and prepared on the stage, ready to present his item. When everybody had settled, everything was quiet. Even to that extent, you can hear a pin dropping on the floor. Everybody was quiet, seated and ready, very ready to listen to the poem from the poet who was invited. In that quietness, all of a sudden, the guy he had met, who is the father, shows up and enters the class, the room they were sitting. And within no minute, the students were scared. They all rushed out through the windows, through the door, and named them, running out because a madman had entered the room. and the and because the because he had been invited by the presenter, and the presenter was not aware that in the community this guy was seen as mad, was not seen as a right person in the mind. So the students dashed out, running helter-skelter, fearing for their life, because a madman had entered in the room where the presentation was to take place. And in this, just like that, the presentation was to be postponed, and the madman was to be kicked out because he was now a threat to the lives of the students. So, in this incident, that's where the writer gets to know the picture the locals have about the guy who is the father. So one day, on that day, the presentation didn't take place, and it was postponed. The writer is given another day to present his article. But on leaving, it really disturbs his mind. Why the guy he has met on the road, conversed well with, invited him to his home, seems to be so well, seems to speak well, seems to be a reasonable person. Why would the villagers or the locals have him in mind like he's mad, he's this kind of a person? And while he had met the guy and they had associated very well with him, he had even given him the invitation to his home. So the writer is left with a lot of questions. Why is this man treated this way? So he leaves the school, goes back home heartbroken, but all in all, having questions why this man is treated in this manner. So the writer did not turn down the invitation that he had been given by the man. He decided to go visit the man after that incident of happening in the school, a failed presentation, and so on, because just a madman entered the room where the presentation was to take place. He decides not to turn down the invitation from the man, the same man that was scared by the student. So when the day comes, he visits the man in his home. To his surprise, the same home that he had been told and kind of visited, and it looked abandoned, That's where the man had invited him. He goes to that home, finds out that the man stays in that home as much as it was looking abandoned and it was in that lonely state. So the writer finds out that this man was living in that home. He welcomes him so warmly. He welcomes him in the house. The writer enters and finds some sofas, yes, but with dust, and a table, and a well-to-do room, but full of dust and all sort of those things, suggesting that this room, this place, it's not cleaned regularly as it's supposed to be. So he enters and sits down. The writer, this man who invited him, even gives him a cup of tea and gives him a lot of stories that the writer comes out to find out that this man is actually his father. He gives him a story of her own mother, how they met. So Isakom Amjong, who is the father to the writer, reveals everything, and the writer gets to know that actually this person is the father. And in the process, the writer gets to know is the father, that's his father, and he promises to be back on another day so that he might find out some more things that were pressing him, that were issues in his heart. So he ends up coming on another day of back in that home, and unfortunately the writer does not find his father alive. He finds his father dead. And all along in the story, because he had some things the story had given him, the father had given him something. He had showed him something that he wanted the writer to go looking for it in that place. Yeah, yes, I think I'll be ending up this story for now. Maybe I'll be giving a part 2 of the story. It's a very interesting story. So the likely on a sad note, the writer has found his father, but he gets not to know more and much about his father, and upon knowing, the father passes away in such a terrible way. After he just gets to know that his father, on his next visit, the writer finds out the father is dead in the house. This is so sad. So I'll be ending up there the story. Maybe there will be part 2 of this because it's very interesting. It's an interesting story. And thank you so much, my friend Igor. Because you are the one that has made me go on telling this story, and maybe we'll be catching up on the next one. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in, for being here. Thank you so much for the likes. I really appreciate. I have to go get something, and we will be catching up on the next one. You'll start, my friend Igor, the moment you'll start reading books for Swahili books, start with this one too. And there's another one, Siku Njema. Oh, those are very good books. You learn a lot from the Swahili language. Yes, from this writer. Thank you so much. They are very interesting stories. Very interesting stories. Once you start reading, hey, you don't want to leave the books because you flow with it and you are just like, hey, what next? Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys. Ego there, say stay safe. You too, be safe. Be safe. Thank you so much. I'll be ending it right here. I'm grateful you being here. Thank you. Bye. See you in the next one.